Parashat Vayakhel, Pekudei, this week's Parashat. In the very beginning of Parashat Vayakhel, Moshe has come down from Har Sinai after pleading for Bnei Israel, after asking for forgiveness. That was right after Yom Kippurim. And Vayakhel Moshe, he gathers all of Am Israel. It's a very interesting word, the word Vayakhel. What's the meaning of the word Vayakhel, and why is he gathering them all together at this moment? Even though we spoke already about the commandment of building the Myshkin and the various contributions that would be required, the materials were specified, this is when it really begins to happen. In Parashat Vayakhel and Pekudei, that the Myshkin is put together, it's erected, and the materials are actually brought. So in Moshe gathering everybody, he's communicating to them that this Myshkin belongs to all of you. It's not so important how much one brings. Some brought less, some brought more. Everyone is important. It belongs to everybody. This Myshkin is everyone's. And this is true in every mitzvah, every effort that a Jew makes, whether he accomplishes a lot or a little. It's all of great value. HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers everybody's situation and his personal circumstances. If he has to walk many miles to shul, and he does so regularly, that is a tremendous sacrifice. He's rewarded accordingly. Sechar alicha is something significant. The alicha, in other words, the amount of time that it took you and the effort that you invested in walking. Those who walk less also receive a mitzvah, but everything is according to the effort. HaKadosh Baruch Hu values everything we do, whether it's a little or whether it's a lot. The same with the terumot, according to one's means, whatever one can. Obviously Hashem is not very happy with one who could really do a lot more, and he does little, intentionally. But if one tries his best, Hashem says, that's fine with me, according to your means. So Hashem tells Moshe to bring everybody together, to tell them that they're all important, and that every contribution counts. Another idea of bringing them all together at the same time is that they should not wait, like the Nesi'im, as we mentioned before. The Nesi'im, the ministers, they waited till the end to see what was missing. They would make up for it. So he says, no, let all of you come at the very beginning, because all of you should be there present from the start. One should not wait until everything is done and later see what else there is to bring. Be there from the very beginning, show that you have an interest. Be at the forefront of this project. So everybody's brought, everybody's assembled together. Another idea of Vayakhel, and that is why the word Vayakhel is used over here, is because we see the word in a different context. The word Vayakhel is used in a negative context in the Maaseh Egel. Nikhalu al Aaron. They all assembled, gathered together on Aaron, make us a leader, bring us a leader. And that is where the golden calf came about. So in order to fix that Vayakhel, that assembly, Moshe is telling us, Vayakhel, now come together for Dvar Mitzvah. And we've spoken about it in the past, that in the Kabbalah there's something called Teshuvat HaMishkal. The proper Teshuvah is to do a mitzvah in the same way that you did an Avirah. If you spent money on something not proper, spend money on mitzvot and Maasim Tovim. Make up for it somehow. You went out of your way to do something not right, then go out of your way and sacrifice for a good act, for a good deed. So Vayakhel, Moshe is bringing them together, assembling them for a good cause now, to make up for the assembly that they got together in making the Egel. That is one idea of why the word Vayakhel is used over here. Then the Zohar says the idea behind Vayakhel is very important, because at one time HaKadosh Baruch Hu did tell us, Kol isha she'idevenu libo, whoever wants to contribute to building the Myshkin is welcome. Well, not anymore. After the Maaseh Egel, after the Erev Rav initiated, instigated, and caused this balagan, this great confusion, and the Egel came out of it, Hashem says, they're not invited. I want the Myshkin to be built only by Am Israel. So in the first pasuk you will see Vayakhel, who is involved in Vayakhel? Adat Israel. Not Kol Ha'am, not the whole nation. Not everyone is invited. To contribute to this cause, it has to be from pure hands. And this is a very interesting point, because there were rabbis, Hasidic rabbis, who from time to time used to receive money from all sorts of sources. Imagine a rabbi right now who's receiving pidyonot. Pidyonot means kapara. In other words, somebody wants a kapara for an avon, or wants a refuah shelema, and he brings some tzedakah, some charity. And it turns out to be that money was made from gambling. What should the rabbi do with this money? Should he accept it or not? It's from gambling. It's from an unclean source. What is that?
How does he know that?
No, he knows. He knows for a fact that this money is from gambling. That's the way this man makes his living. Obviously, if you don't know, you don't know. There used to be one rabbi who, when he was confronted, how do you accept money from these guys? He says, this money just goes to feed the horses. I don't use it to feed the students in the yeshiva. The food that enters the mouth, the holy mouths of the Talmidei Yeshiva, should be from a clean source. Because it can make a difference. It does have an effect. Where does this money come from? This money is being used. Now, could you accept it or not is a whole different issue. It depends what the source is. It may not be 100% kosher, but it may be acceptable. But even if it is acceptable, you have to know where to use it. Yeah, no, not the CPA, but it is important. Hashem says, the Myshkan, I want only Am Yisrael to build. I don't want the Erev Rav to be involved. So Moshe Rabbeinu is gathering everybody here, including the women. Even though the Zohar says they're gathered separately, they're still all assembled at the same time. And this is why, because we are now separating them from the Erev Rav. The actual building of the Mishkan will be done by Am Yisrael with the exclusion of the Erev Rav. So Moshe assembles everyone, and once again, he commands us about Shabbat. Shabbat is mentioned 12 times. It's a very important commandment. But once again, we just spoke about it before. The importance of Shabbat, how it is the opposite of Avodah Zarah, how it could have a counter effect to neutralize someone who was idol worshipping all these years, whereas idol worshipping removes one from Hashem quickly. Shabbat brings him closer very quickly. Very powerful mitzvah, very important mitzvah, but what does that have to do right now with the Mishkan over here? And especially since we just recently spoke about it. Hashem once again commands us, and the simple interpretation of this commandment here is that B'niyat HaMishkan cannot be done on Shabbat. B'niyat HaMishkan lo docha Shabbat. Pikuach nefesh docha Shabbat. We are familiar with the rule, the famous rule in Halakha, that if somebody has a life-threatening emergency, mechalev Shabbat. Your wife is about to give birth, you take her yourself to the hospital, you don't even call an ambulance. Pikuach nefesh docha Shabbat. So the Torah says, yes, that may be so, but not B'niyat HaMishkan. B'niyat HaMishkan is something very important. This is for Hashem. You might think that you can do all the work on Shabbat. We're not talking about right now the avodah, the service in the Mishkan, in the Bet HaMikdash, which much of it could be done on Shabbat. We're talking about the construction. That cannot be done on Mishkan. Don't think that this, because it's so important, that this is Doche Shabbat. No. That's the simple meaning of what Shabbat is doing here. Why is there a tzivui, again, a commandment on Shabbat? But there's something deeper. Many of you, unfortunately, know many individuals who would come to pray on Shabbat in the Bet HaKnesset. But how do they get there? In a car, right? Many of you know such people who will kiss the Sefer Torah, who will hang mezuzot on every door in their home, but they trample on what's written in the mezuzah and what's written in that same Torah that they're kissing. Right? I'm sure you know such individuals, unfortunately. We're not going to judge them right now. However, there's a big problem over here. And Hashem is aware that this is a phenomenon that occurs. That people, in their minds, have decided how and what to give kavod to. They will give kavod to this shell, to this mezuzah, to this Sefer Torah, but not to what's written inside. They have made that decision. And Hashem is telling us, reminding us with giving of the mitzvah of Shabbat, this Mishkan that you just built, I did for your kavod. After all, after the Maaseh HaEgel, Kol Umot HaOlam, as the Midrash says, all the nations of the world, says, oh, that's it, Hashem divorced them. After that golden calf, He's not coming back to them. But what did happen? Hashem says, make a Mishkan v'shachanti b'tocham, right? And I will reside amongst you. I will be there. I will be coming back to you. Mashal Ema Davar Domeh, there's a story, it's brought in the Midrash, of a husband who went away for a long time from his wife. And all the neighbors, as is typically seen and heard, and as we know, they talk. He's not coming back. And they were telling the woman, we feel bad for you, but your husband's not coming back. And they were telling her, he hasn't come back for so long that he's not coming back. Until one day, he does appear, and they're still not sure if he's going to make up, if he's staying. But once they smell the good perfume, and all the good smells of the good food, and the dinner and everything, now they're convinced that he's here to stay. Once the Mishkan was built up, and everyone was able to smell the ketoret, the korbanot, everything going on properly, that is when the whole world was convinced Hashem has come back to the Jews. So Hashem says, I am making this Mishkan lechvodchem. This is for you kavod. I ask of you to do something for my kavod. My kavod is Shabbat. Don't trample the Shabbat. You want to give me kavod? Keep my Shabbat. Yes. No, the services of the Bet HaMikdash go on regardless. There's certain things that can go on. The avodah. There's certain things, for example, even kil'aim, even sha'atnez does not apply in certain clothes that was used in the Bet HaMikdash. So there's certain exemptions. And part of the service of the Bet HaMikdash needed to be done daily. Yes. There were certain korbanot. No, they would not use fire. No.
How would they burn it?
Yeah. There was esh tamid tukad ala mizbeach. Right. And certain things were always done on a regular basis. Yeah. And that had to be done every single day. Right. Permanently. Right. But nevertheless, there's certain melachot melachot of Shabbat that were not allowed. Never. It all depends. What was needed for the service was permissible. What needed to be done on a daily basis was permitted. Sure. All right. So we're talking right now at this stage of let's call it the stage of the Hot Rama. Everybody's bringing in their contributions. They're all being assembled. They're all gathered, and each one brings what they can. As we said before in Parashat Terumah, this contribution, everyone can bring whatever they wanted, any amount that they wanted. This was an opportunity for them to prove their ahava, their loyalty, their love for Hashem. So there is an emphasis in this week's parasha, bring from yourself. Obviously you bring it from yourself, you're not stealing it. But why is there an emphasis on mitechem? So the commentaries explain like this. Since this is an opportunity to show loyalty and to show love, how does a husband show love to his wife? There are many ways to do so. One of the best ways is if you do what she asks of you to do. The wife asks the husband to do something and he gladly responds and does so. That shows that he cares. But there's something that shows even more than that. If he does it on his own without waiting for her to ask him. Imagine Harry, imagine if you volunteer one night to wash the dishes without your wife asking. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, you're a good man. See, that shows that you care. And it's not because you love doing dishes. It's because you want to alleviate her from this burden. Because otherwise, who else would do it? You don't have a maid. And you don't have a dishwasher. Right? So who else? So the fact that you're doing it on your own and even not waiting for her to ask you shows that you really care. So the idea of mitechem is do it on your own before I even ask you. Bring whatever you can without me asking you. That is the emphasis in the word mitechem. The Ber Maim Chaim, a Kabbalist that lived close to 200 years ago, says that there's something else in the word mitechem. A lot of people can bring silver and gold. It's not a big deal for them to contribute. They have tons of it. Mitechem means l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, not for your own honor, not to show off. When you donate something, you have to be careful that it should be l'shem shamayim, because what's important to Hashem is what? The heart, the kavanah, not the silver and the gold. That doesn't mean anything. Hashem wants to see your loyalty. The true loyalty is not the actual money, it's what the intention behind that donation is. Now that we understand that there's an emphasis here on l'shem shamayim, we will understand why Betzalel was the one that's chosen to be the project manager of this Myshkin. He's the one that put this whole thing together, even though he was given the instructions. He had great talent. And Hashem says, this is the man. And he was a young boy. He was about 13 years old at the time. Why does he get this prestigious job? So many of you perhaps are familiar with the famous Midrash that says when Betzalel's name appears in the Torah, it appears not only with his father's name, which would be normal, it also appears with his grandfather's name. Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur lematei Yehuda. Why does his grandfather appear in a Yehoz? Right, because Hur died for the honor of Hashem. When? B'ma'aseh egel. Uratzalit naged. He wanted to oppose them. He wanted to discourage them. He put up a fight and they killed him. So he got killed because he opposed the egel. Because he opposed the egel, in other words, he did something b'msirut nefesh to be mekadesh Shem Shamayim. Hashem says, from your descendants, your own grandson will be the one who will build the Myshkin, which is a tikkun for the egel. So that is what the Midrash says. Betzalel has the zechut of his grandfather. Hur has the zechut that his grandson will build it. And that is the connection. And that is why his grandfather's name is mentioned. But there's something else. Hashem, the Pasuk says, gives chokhmah to chachamim. He gives wisdom to the wise. Wisdom to the wise. There was once a Roman lady that asked the rabbi, I don't understand this Pasuk. The wisdom should be given to the fools. They are the ones that need it the most. They're fools. They need wisdom. Hashem says, the rabbi tells her, let me ask you a question. Imagine two individuals that came to ask you for a loan. One is a rich man. He has money. He just needs a loan, temporary loan. Another one is a beggar. Who would you more readily give the loan to? He says, obviously to the rich man, because to the poor man, the beggar, I don't know if he's going to ever give me back the money. So he tells her the same is true with Hashem. If you were to give chokhmah to the shotim, to the fools, they wouldn't do anything with it. They would waste it. They would misuse it. Hashem can only rely by giving the chokhmah on those who are chachamim, who will know to put it to good use. That is what Hashem gives chokhmah to chachamim. Those who know how to use it, who will use it for good things. Betzalel was a chacham. So were all his co-workers, his colleagues. There was a whole group of them. And Eliyahu, who was his assistant, they were all chachamim. So Hashem endowed them with talent, with chokhmah, to be able to put together all of these difficult kelim. They were not so easy to put together. So Hashem gives chokhmah to those who, to begin with, have chokhmah and want to learn and want to know. Another idea behind Betzalel being chosen especially since he was a young man. Why him? He very, very much on his own wanted to do something. He craved to do something for the Myshkin. He was very excited. He would have loved to contribute. And this is a young boy. What could he bring? He has nothing on his own. He doesn't have any money of his own. He's a young child. But he has chokhmah, and he has desire, and he's excited. And Hashem says, you know what? He so much wants to do it, I'm going to give him that opportunity. And this brings to mind what the rabbis tell us elsewhere, that whoever is very, very strong in giving tzedakah, regularly gives tzedakah, always wants to give tzedakah, Hashem tamid yazmin lo kesef. Hashem will always make sure that he has the money to give. You always want to give on your own? You're excited about this mitzvah? You love to do this mitzvah? I'll make sure that you always have the money to be able to perform this mitzvah. But not only that, there's something incredible. How many times have you had somebody come to you for money and you wonder if he really needed the money? Perhaps he's a crook. And there are crooks in this world. You may not have met them because they don't publicize it, right? Right? You don't know. Right? How do you know someone's a crook? But there are some crooks there. Now, Baruch Hashem, the majority who ask for money need the money. The majority. We know that for a fact. Whether they give you a letter or not, they probably need the money. And I tell people, I'd rather be guilty of giving someone who does not need than being guilty of not giving somebody who really needed. So I don't want to take a chance. If I really, really think 99% of this guy really doesn't need it, he's just going to buy some schnapps with it, then I give him a nickel. What could happen with a nickel? First of all, I didn't get used to refusing. You don't want to get used to refusing too much, because if you refuse, even though you're refusing for good reason, you eventually will refuse for a good cause. Like the Chafetz Chaim says, don't get into the habit of speaking Lashon Hara, even about a tree. About a tree? Yeah. Because you never want to speak Lashon Hara. Right? So if you speak about something that may be permissible, you eventually might get carried away and speak about something that's not permissible. So the rabbis tell us, whoever always desires to give tzedakah, not only will Hashem give him the means to always perform this mitzvah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazmin lo aniyim meuganim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make sure that those who come to his door will always be good poor people. Poor people that really need the money. What's wrong with the other poor people? Even though you didn't do an avirah perhaps, you didn't get a mitzvah by helping somebody who doesn't really need the money. So that money was, in a sense, wasted. In other words, for someone to have the zechut of giving his tzedakah to a good cause, he always has to have that desire, that interest, that excitement to want to do the mitzvah. L'shem shamayim. So Hashem says, this man wants to give tzedakah at all times. I will always provide him with the means, with the money, and I will make sure that those who come to his door are the ones that really need it. So he should be zocheh for having a mitzvah done properly. So Bezalel is giving the opportunity because of his excitement, because of his burning desire to do this mitzvah. And Hashem says, this is the type of people I want. People who really want to do it on their own, people who are excited, people who want to do it l'shem shamayim. That is also what the rabbis say is the meaning of the pasuk, v'yitkadishtem v'yitem kedoshim. Make yourself holy and you will be holy. What does that mean? So the rabbis learn from that pasuk, kol ha'mekadesh atzmo me'at milemata mekadshim oto harbe milemala. Whoever takes efforts in this world to sanctify himself, even a little bit, Hashem says, oh, you're on the right track, you're doing it on your own, I will help you from above. So if Hashem sees that somebody is really trying to do the right thing, He gives him a boost, He gives him assistance to be able to accomplish that. Going on in Parashat Vayakhel, one will notice that the women are also emphasized. As you know, women also contributed not only in the work, but they had a very, very specific contribution that went into making the wash basin, the kiyor. Anybody know what they contributed? The mirrors, exactly. Now the mirrors was something that Moshe did not want to include in the building of the Myshkin. Why? Moshe says, mirrors? That's for averot. That's not a pure keli. What do you use a mirror for? Just to see how beautiful you look. Vanities. Hashem says, no, on the contrary, these mirrors mean a lot to me more than anything else. I want you to include the mirrors that the women are bringing. The copper mirrors. Why? Because the Midrash says, in Mitzrayim, the Jews were working very, very hard. One of the ideas behind their hard labor was not just to make pyramids, just to enslave them just for the sake of work. It was to keep them busy so they do not procreate. They do not have time to be with their wives. And they were very tired. And what did these women do? They were tzadikot. They challenged their husbands. They brought a little bit of fish, drink. They made a small picnic with their husbands in the few minutes that they had. And they challenged their husbands. Let's look at the mirror. And each one would tell the other one, I look more beautiful than you. The man would say that to his wife. The wife would challenge her husband, they would have this little game. And through that little game, the husbands, even though they were very tired, would be willing to be with their wives, and that is how children were born. And that is the meaning of the pasuk, Tachat tapuach orartika, under the apple tree. The women brought about the men to have an interest in them and to procreate. Hashem says this was all through the mirror. The mirror therefore was used for a mitzvah. The whole intention, the whole kavanah here was the Shem Shamayim. I want to include, that's what I want in the Myshkan. I want the Shem Shamayim. Include those mirrors. But why are those mirrors more chaviv alai, the Midrash says? I like them much more than anything else, because something which is holy by nature is on a high level. The rabbis tell us, something that was not holy to begin with, Vayakhel, v'zit kadesh, and it became holy, it's even on a higher level. You have some Arab songs, nice Arabic songs, Farid al-Atrash, right, an example, many Arab songs, and we're singing them here today. Sephardic songs, they're originally Arabic. Is that okay? Of course it is. We took something whole and we brought it into the Kedusha. As long as the words are normal, we don't use their words, it's just a tune. That's perfectly okay. We're taking something whole, it was not completely tameh either to begin with. Taking something whole, secular, and bringing it into the Kedusha. The Ashkenazi Jews too. A lot of the marches, a lot of the songs that the Hasidic rabbis sang, the tunes, were based on marches from Napoleon, or from the Polish government, from the Russians. We took something from the Hol and we brought it into the Kedusha. We took the mirror that was used for Hol and brought it into the Kedusha, because there was, to begin with, the had Kedusha. It was done for mitzvah. But even if there was no mitzvah, it could be sanctified, no problem. Moshe just was here, just had a dilemma over here, because mirrors usually are not used for anything other than vanities. Hashem says, no, not in this case. There was a mitzvah performed with it. It was Hashem Shamayim. I want that included. We've spoken about the importance of doing things Hashem Shamayim. It sounds easier than what it really is. To do a mitzvah Hashem Shamayim is not easy. Let me give you an example. I'll tell you a short story that happened with the Chazon Ish. A teacher once spoke to the Chazon Ish about why he wants to become a teacher. Chazon Ish says, you sure you want this profession? He says, yes. Why do you want to be a teacher? He says, because they pay well. This is not for you. This is not for you. The Chazon Ish tells him that it's not a profession for you. You want to do it for the money? If you want to do it for the money, then you're not doing it Hashem Shamayim. A teacher should be someone who cares about the kids, not somebody who wants to have a good salary. That's not called Hashem Shamayim. That is not for the sake of teaching Jewish children. This is not for you. And the same is true with the performance of the mitzvot. Except that with performance of mitzvot, we have no choice. We need to perform mitzvot. However, there is a small choice. We have the choice of doing a mitzvah with the proper kavanot, Hashem Shamayim, or not. And what happens when we do a mitzvah with the proper kavanot? That mitzvah is much more effective, it's much more powerful. In other words, we have no choice with whether we do the mitzvah or not. We need to do the mitzvah. We are commanded to do the mitzvah, but we still have a choice on how we perform the mitzvah. Give you a quick example. Let's say someone is about to give a big donation to the shul. $25,000. What's his reasoning? He wants a big sign saying that it's for him, for Eliyahu Nishmat, his father or grandfather. He wants a big plaque. He wants the kavod. He wants everybody to recognize what he did for the place. That's not Hashem Shamayim. That's for his own personal kavod. Do we accept it? Yes, of course we accept it. Because it's still tzedakah. It's still being used for the building of the Bet HaKnesset, for the Bet Midrash. It's still it's a good cause. But his kavanah is not right. It's not the same. Sachar, upstairs, Bashamayim. I gave all this tzedakah. Yeah, but what was your kavanah when you gave that tzedakah? It was for your own kavod. It still has some value, but it's not, you cannot compare it to the value of a mitzvah, that even though it was less money, it was done purely Hashem Shamayim. And that is what the rabbis tell us, it makes no difference whether you add or you lessen the amount that you give. As long as your kavanah is Hashem Shamayim, the amount is not as important. In the same way that a mitzvah that is performed properly, the Hashem Shamayim, is more powerful, more effective, the rabbis tell us whoever is undergoing Yisurim. Yisurim means that he is suffering, he's in pain, he's sick. And he accepts the Yisurim out of love. He understands that this is for his kapara. Then the Yisurim have a tremendous effect of being mechaper his avonot, of atoning for his sins. If he rebels, in other words, he starts complaining to Hashem, I don't deserve this, what is this for, where are you, I don't see you, I'm a good man, then all that pain that he's having will not be as effective to atone. So if somebody does, Khalila, undergo a terrible, painful experience, you might as well say, Gamzu Tova Hashem, I accept mitoch ha'ava, in order that this Yisurim should be as effective as possible in being mechaper, in atoning for one's sins. And there is a little bit left over from the sin of the Egel. What does that mean? The sin of the Egel was so powerful that Hashem says, I will not exact punishment just of that generation. It's too much. Hashem therefore scattered the punishment over many, many generations. And every major Qur'anut, every major disaster or persecution that Am Yisrael goes through has a little bit of the Chet HaEgel in it. Now, since there's a little bit of Chet HaEgel in every generation, in the same way, every generation has the opportunity to repair the Chet HaEgel, to repair that sin. And how do you repair the Chet HaEgel? Well, back then when we had a Myshkan or we had a Bet HaMikdash, people brought donations to the Bedek HaBayit, Korbanot. You know, Korban was not always brought for a sin. There was a Korban Shelamim, Korban Todah, for giving thanks, and supporting the Kohanim, the Leviim, through the Trumot and Maasrot. There were many ways to show your appreciation. Now it's called Bedek HaBayit, the maintenance of the Bet HaMikdash. There was a certain amount was required, the Machzit Shekel, for example, and the rest was however everyone wanted to give. This is also true today. Even though we don't have a Mishkan, we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, we have Bet HaKnesset, we have a Bet Midrash, and the mitzvah of supporting them is very similar to the mitzvah of supporting the Bet HaMikdash, because in many ways it acts the same as a Bet HaMikdash for us, this sanctuary. And when one builds one, or when one contributes and supports one, he's performing a similar mitzvah as though he would be living during the time of the Bet HaMikdash and would be contributing to the Bedek HaBayit. But not only that, he's also partaking in the tikkun of the Chet HaEgel. Whereas in the Chet HaEgel, they contributed and spent all this money on Avodah Zarah. Now we're taking this money and sanctifying it and using it for a good cause. And as I've said before, that is one of the best ways to do teshuvah. You spend so much money on gambling, on shtuyot, on vanities, on nonsense. Use that same money for good things and neutralize the effect that the money had on being spent on negative things. That was Parashat Vayakhel. That's the essence of Parashat Vayakhel. What happens in Parashat Pekudei? Parashat Pekudei, there's an accounting. Harry, this is a good parashat for you. All the numbers and all the figures of how much was spent on gold, silver, and copper. Why do we have to have an accounting of all that was contributed? So the Midrash says, believe it or not, it's incredible. One of the reasons of why there is a reckoning here of all the amount that went in is so the Jews should not suspect that Moshe pocketed some of the gold and silver and copper. Could you believe it? Could you understand that? Yeah. There will always be some people, always, every generation, en chadash tachat hashamesh. There's nothing new under the sun. There's always people who suspect, right, who think all sorts of things, who are paranoid. It's the same, always. And therefore, there might be some individual who will suspect that Moshe Rabbeinu pocketed some of the gold and silver and copper. So Moshe gives an accounting of where all the gold that came in, how much came in, and where it went, how it was put to use. That is one idea. Another idea of why there is a calculation done over here is because everything that is counted means that it's important. Am Yisrael was counted. Even though they were not counted 1, 2, 3, 4, we used the Machzit Shekel to count them. But what was the counting for? To show that they're important. Hashem wants to know how many are you? How many are left right now? Because you're so important, you're valuable to me. So when something is being counted here, it shows that it has value. Another idea is in enumerating and detailing all that went into building the Myshkan is that every detail was important. Nothing was extra. There was no excess. And what does that mean? It means that everything that Hashem created in the world, in a sense, similarly, is for a good reason. There's nothing extra. Everything is important. Every insect is here for a reason. All the details, therefore, are specified. Everything is enumerated to remind us that everything has a need, has a purpose, everything is important. There's nothing extra. Now, the fact that there's so much detail going into the numbers also says something else. If numbers and details are important down here, the more so they are important upstairs. When one goes upstairs after 120, they're going to sit down with him and have a nice talk about how did you spend your time and money? You were given 75 years to live. You were given so much money per year. How did you use it? How did you spend it? In the same way that there's a cheshbon down here, there's a cheshbon upstairs. And we have to give an accounting of how we used or misused the time. And the Gaon of Vilna says that is the meaning of what the rabbis tell us, that after 120, Adam noten din v'cheshbon. A person has to give a din v'cheshbon on all he did. What's the difference between din, judgment, and cheshbon, calculation? So the Gaon of Vilna says din is for all the bad deeds that we did. Cheshbon is for all what we could have done during the time we did bad deeds. In other words, you did this and that. You know what you could have done at the same time that you were doing that? So din, we will have to give for all the terrible things that we did. And also cheshbon, what we could have done that we did not accomplish because we were busy doing all these terrible things. Nothing escapes upstairs. And in the same way that one is somewhat careful down in this world when he prepares his income tax return around this time of the year, that he should not come out, short, so he should not be audited, and they shouldn't come back after him. In the same way we try to be careful, in the same way we should be careful with our ma'asim, that we should not come short upstairs. You were given so much time, you could have accomplished a lot more. Why didn't you do it? Why were you just preoccupied with vanities? So one has to be concerned about this, because there will be a cheshbon upstairs. They will take him apart. How did you use your time? Why did you do this when you could have done that? Because cheshbon is so important, you will find a very interesting pasuk, or part of a pasuk, in the Parashat that says, "Velachashov machshavot, bazahav ubachesef ubanechoshet." That those individuals who were given the talent, they knew how to, not only how to manage all this money, but what to make out of what to make out of gold, what to make out of silver, and how to make it. Metallurgy is a very interesting science. Every metal has its strengths and has its weaknesses, and that is why sometimes you have alloys. Alloys are mixtures of metals to be able to have the benefits of both. So these individuals who were responsible for making the kelim, for putting together the Myshkan, they needed to be lachshov machshavot. They needed to be able to think through how to do this. What does it mean with lachshov machshavot? So the commentaries explain that some people think it's easy, once you have money, to spend it. And many people say, just give me the money and I already know what to do with it. And Rabbi said, no, that's not true. Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, Resh ve'osher al titen li. Shlomo Melech says to Hashem, don't give me wealth and poverty. I want to be benoni. Why? Because neither of them is good. Poverty is definitely no good. I think all of you agree. But what about wealth? Well, wealth has the power to elevate someone, also to bring him all the way down. So Shlomo says, don't give me either of the extremes. So those who tell you the hard part is making the money, the easy part is, spending it, it's not true. It's not easy to know how to manage your money, where to spend it, what to buy, what not to buy. And that is why the commentators explain, it says here, Lachashov machshavot. This is a very important lesson. When it comes to gold, silver, and copper, when it comes to money, in other words, you need divine assistance. Hashem should be able to help us how to properly manage it. What does the word Pekudei mean? Even though we're using it to mean to count, or an accounting, in reality, Pekudei also comes from the word tafkid. Tafkid means a role. Every Jew is important, every Jew has a role. And the rabbis tell us, Lo alecha melacha ligmor, venata ben chorin libatel mimena. You don't have to do everything, and neither are you exempt from doing nothing. Some people are overwhelmed. There's so much to learn. There's so many mitzvot. There's so much to do. How can I ever finish all of that? It's not up to you to finish everything, and neither are you exempt from doing nothing. You do whatever you can. You have a special mission, and your mission can only be done by you, but not by anyone else. And since everyone has their unique mission, there's no reason why people should be jealous of each other. A lot of people are jealous. I'm not talking about right now about wealth. I'm talking about jealous because of someone's accomplishments, because of his position. What are you jealous for? That is his specific mission. That's something that only he can do, and what you have, he cannot do. Each one is special in his or her way. There's no reason therefore to be jealous, except for one type of envy. When you see somebody has learned a lot and accomplished and did many mitzvot and is given tzedakah, that's okay to envy him, so you should want to be like him. That's okay. But otherwise there's no reason to be jealous of anyone, because everybody is unique, everybody has his own specific mission, and we cannot duplicate it. It's only he can do it, not you. Not only does everyone have a mission, I once explained, what does Zahav, Chesed, and Nechoshet have in common? Gold, silver, and copper. They're all precious metals. Even though gold is gold and copper is less than gold. If you look at the periodic table, if you remember that, they all have their various differences, but they're all precious metals. They're all precious. All Jews are precious. Some have more, some have less, some do this, some do that, but we're all precious metals. Everyone is important. The only thing that is lacking by many Jews is simply the pride of being Jewish. if everybody would be proud of being Jewish, if everybody would know approximately what their mission is in life, the bare minimum, we all have a bare minimum that we need to know, and that is to serve Hashem. Everyone has a unique job, but if we were to know the bare minimum, we would be proud, then we would go about doing our mission. Many Jews do not go about doing their mission. Instead, they're busy with their livelihoods and with doing other things that are not important because they're not proud. And that is why the rabbis put it into the Siddur every morning for Jews to say, Shelo asani goy, the moment you wake up, be thankful that you're a Jew. You have what to accomplish. Don't waste your time. Be proud of yourself. Be proud, in other words, because you're Jewish. That's what's missing. A lot of people don't have that, and that is why they waste their time. They don't accomplish anything. The fact that one was born and is alive means that Hashem needs him here. He has some purpose, some mission. Yes. Why do the men say Shelo asani isha? That was one of the 70 questions. Several years ago I discussed that. You don't remember what we said back then? Yeah. Another time we'll talk about it, but very briefly. We're not making fun of anyone when we say that. It's just that the man is saying that he's grateful that he was given this opportunity to perform 613 commandments. The women don't have that. So the man is saying, you know what? I have 613, and if I do them all, I will have also a lot of reward for doing that. And therefore, by being born a man means that I have all this responsibility. I'm happy to have this responsibility. So in a way, what the man is saying is, I'm happy and proud of being who I am because of all that I can accomplish. He's not denigrating anybody, even though some people look at it that way. No. It's like Shelo asani goy. Why doesn't it say asani Yehudi? It made me a Jew. Because one who's born to a Jewish mother is already Jewish, right? He's not a goy anymore. To truly be a Jew, it's not enough to be born to a Jewish mother. You need to perform mitzvot. You need to do ma'asim tovim. That you can only claim credit for once you pass away from this world. Ha'iti Yehudi. I live my life as a Jew. The fact that you are born to a Jewish mother doesn't make you Jewish enough. It just makes you not a goy. So in the morning when we wake up, we say, Baruch Hashem, first of all, I'm not a goy. Now, whether I decide to be Jewish or not depends on if I do ma'asim tovim and mitzvot, if I perform. If I don't perform, then I'm not doing my job. Then why be called Jewish? Why take credit for something that I'm not doing? Alright, so anyways, that's briefly the idea. Let's just go on right now. In speaking about the precious metals, that every Jew is important, no matter how much wealth he has, no matter how much he does, the Chafetz Chaim gave a beautiful mashal to explain why everyone is necessary. Nevertheless, why we're all important. And that is for the following reason. There was once someone who asked Chafetz Chaim, why do we have so many nuschaot, Faradi, Ashkenazi, Temani, Lithuanian, Yeke? There's all sorts of versions in the Tefillah, there's different minhagim, there's different customs. And Chafetz Chaim answered as follows. Why don't you go to the general of a big army and ask him, why do you have an air force? Why do you have a tank battalion? Why do you have foot soldiers? Why do you have a navy? And why do you have the SEALs? Why don't you just put them all together? Why do you have to have all these separate departments? Have one army. And obviously the answer would be, each one performs something else. We need them all. Why do we need them all? Because they all have the same goal. What's the goal? To defeat the enemy. As long as they all have the same goal, so what if this one does things a little bit differently? Because there's a lot of things that need to be done. But as long as they have the same goal, that's okay. All of them, they're all important. The same is true with the nuschaot. They're all slightly different, but they all accomplish the same thing. We want to defeat the Yetzer Hara. We want to defeat the Satan. We want to defeat the enemy. We want to survive as a Jewish nation. So as long as we're all aiming for the same goal, so what if it's a little bit different? Everyone is important. What's important is to remember is that we strive for the same goal. Yes? Yeah.
They lose sight of what God and they waste lives. So they're not getting their...
That's why I spoke about the importance of being proud of who you are and realizing that you have a special mission. Yeah, you're voicing your life.
Plan doesn't get...
Right, and then you have to come back in another Gilgul perhaps to accomplish that, sure. Okay, after all the Myshkan is put together, the Pasuk says, Vayasu b'nei Yisrael kechol asher tziva Hashem. What's the emphasis over there? Right. Why is there a need to mention that so many times, and especially at the very end? When they've done it. We know that. So the Or HaChaim says as follows. The Or HaChaim asks the question, how is it possible for every Jew to perform all 613 mitzvot? There are many mitzvot that only belong to Kohanim. And he uses this Pasuk as a way of explaining this idea. That in reality, Am Yisrael is all one unit. And when one Jew performs a mitzvah, all of Am Yisrael takes credit and takes part in that mitzvah. So even though some of the mitzvot belong only to the Kohanim, since in reality all of Am Yisrael is one unit, Kol Yisrael Alevim Zelazeh, we're all responsible for each other, we're one. when one performs a mitzvah that belongs to him, we all take credit for it. The other way around too, chas v'shalom. If Jews do the wrong thing, we take responsibility for that. We're all in the same boat. One unit, the Chafetz Chaim says, Vayakhel b'nei Israel. Vayakhel b'nei Israel. All of Am Yisrael did, as Hashem told them to do. Each one receives credit, has a chelek, has a share in the mitzvot that the other one did as well. Alright, so why is the Myshkan called the Myshkan? Anybody know? Why is the tabernacle called a Myshkan? What does the word Myshkan come from? To dwell. That's the simple meaning. To dwell, the Shekhinah dwells, Myshkan. That's the simple meaning. But the rabbis also tell us that Myshkan is called Myshkan because it was a mashkon. A mashkon is like a collateral. Hashem is giving this to us, but He's holding this as a collateral. In other words, it could be taken away from us if we misuse it. Just like the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. Shenit Mashken, the Midrash says. It's called Mishkan Shenit Mashken. It was used like a mashkon. If we do not use it properly, it's taken away. And that is what happened in the Second Temple. The Second Temple era, only 44,000 Jews came up from Babel to rebuild the Second Temple. There was a lack of kavod shown for rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash, and that is why in the second Bet HaMikdash we didn't have a lot of the things that we had in the first. Not only that, why don't you ask another question? Why wasn't the Bet HaMikdash built right away? Why did we have to have a Mishkan for so many years before Bet HaMikdash was built? Also because there was not enough kavod, enough excitement, enough will to have this Bet HaMikdash on a permanent basis. And that is why even after we entered Eretz Yisrael, we were still with the Mishkan for a number of years. Hashem says, you want this Bet HaMikdash to last? Give it the proper kavod. Show me that this is what you want. This is your house. If you don't want it, then I take it away from you. Yes.
Absolutely.
The what? Yeah. Various ones that were built and rebuilt, but there was the original one, Nignaz. The original Mishkan that was put together by Moshe and Betzalel was interred. It was never destroyed. The Midrash says it's not too far from Yerushalayim. The reason why it was interred and not destroyed, the Rabbi tells in the Midrash, because Shenivna minidvot libam shel Yisrael. It was built with all the heart. And anything that is done with all the heart is permanent, it's everlasting. Yes, it's underground, Nignaz, not too far from Yerushalayim. All the whole original Mishkan, all the hides and all the krashim and the many kelim that were in the Mishkan. That when Mashiach comes, we'll bring it out. Exactly. Yeah. There are a lot of Remazim and White mentioned so many times. That's true. Yeah. Anyway, another reason why it's called Myshkan is because we said before, because Hashem resides in it. This is the dwelling place of the Shekhinah, but that is a name that Hashem uses. What name do we use for the Mishkan? Mikdash. It's a Mikdash. Why? Because we sanctify it. Even though it says Mishkan Ha'idut, which means that this Mishkan was holy because of the Luchot, in reality the real sanctification did not occur because of the Luchot. It occurred because of the Ma'asim of Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael sanctifies this place with their Ma'asim. So that is why we call it Mikdash. Mekachim oto. Hashem calls it Mishkan. He dwells there. We call it Mikdash because we sanctify it. Just to finish up, I think I mentioned it in the past, that the rabbis tell us that every Jewish home should really be a Mikdash Me'at, a small temple. When we wish a new couple, just recently got married, Shetivnu Bait Ne'eman B'Yisrael, that you should build a home based on the foundations of Judaism, loyal to Judaism. What we mean is that they should have in this home a Mizbeach. What's a Mizbeach at a home? Where the two give in to each other, where the two sacrifice for each other. The two are willing to do for each other. That brings peace. Just like the Mizbeach brought peace for Am Yisrael, when the two sacrifice for each other, there is peace at home. There should be a Shulchan. What's the Shulchan in one's home? Where poor people are invited. Achnasat Orchim. There's the Menorah, there's the Aron, the books, the Sfarim, the learning, the light of the Torah. There's the Shabbat. And what about the vestments of the Kohanim? Where are those in one's home? In the tzitzit and the tefillin that the men wear. In other words, a Jewish home can resemble a small mikdash. But a bet mikdash, a bet midrash, and a bet knesset serve another purpose altogether. They're also called mikdash. But what purpose do they serve? Besides prayer, besides learning, they serve as a miklat, a refuge. Just like Tevat Noach saved a few people from the Mabul, the Bet HaKnesset is also like a Teva. It's also like a big, what do you call the Teva in English? An ark. It's a refuge. It's a place of refuge. When we live in this world that we live today, in this generation, exposed to all the elements out there, this is the only place to run. This is our shelter. This is our refuge. So not only is this a mikdash in what it represents, but it's also a refuge. If a Jew goes to college, works, regardless of what he does, if he's exposed to the outside world, he needs to be tied to this mikdash. He needs to seek refuge here. Otherwise, he can get lost. And last but not least, A very important reminder that we learn from Parashat Vayakhel and Pekudei is a point that we discussed briefly in the past, is that all the gold and silver and copper is material, is materialistic, the Homer. But what do we see? That we can take Homer and elevate it and sanctify it and use it for good things. This is the idea that the Midrash tells us. When Am Yisrael takes everything that is Homer, that they've been given, whether it's their home, whether it's their car, whether it's their money, and elevates it and sanctifies it, they will be blessed with the blessing that Moshe Rabbeinu gave upon the completion of the Myshkin to Am Yisrael. Yehi ratzon v'tishrei Shechina b'toch ma'aseh yedechem.